That well, you may have lost you there. But let me pick back up where I left off with you. I had there, but that's all right.
So,
this way I get the complete thought.
No, that's okay. So the major issues that are part of my platform. One is healthcare. I think the Affordable Health Care Act needs to be revamped and reformed. I can understand why the president, like so many other presidents, tried to put together some sort of universal health care, but this isn't really universal health care. It created accessibility, and I can remember being a small business owner wondering, how do you get health care? How do you get health care for your employees, and how do you get health care for yourself? And most of the time the answer was, you got to really look around for it. Well, so I like the idea that they created the accessibility. The real problem is it's neither affordable nor does it provide quality health care coverage. I mean, being somebody that's in the insurance field, I don't sell health insurance. I sell, personal lines insurance and commercial insurance and such. But looking at the health care and what they're actually providing you, all they did is they created these high deductibles that look like catastrophic policies, and at a rate that's not affordable for most people. I'll give you an example. There's a girl that works in the building where my office is, my insurance agency, and she makes like $23,000 a year. And she went on the exchange the other day for fear of she needed to get insurance, and she had previously had insurance with a significant other, but they're no longer together. And
Right.
she was fearful of getting that like $695 fee for not having a health insurance, which I can understand. I don't agree with feeing people. That's like coercion. But I believe in the fact that everybody should be insured, because I was one of the biggest advocates years ago that said the majority of people are going bankrupt in this country because of past medical bills that they couldn't pay because they didn't have health insurance. But so she goes on the exchange to get health insurance, and the least expensive she could find was $130 per month. Now, mind you, that's probably 10 or 12% of what she takes home per month. And it was providing coverage with 50% deductibles for major medical, as well as some bigger co-pays. And I just don't think that the Affordable Health Care Act, it does, again, provides affordable quality health care. It needs to be completely revamped, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. So I'm very passionate about health care. And I think that we already have a universal system in this country. It's called Medicaid. If you can't afford it, then there is a system in place where you can get your plan now on Medicaid. The biggest problem I see is it didn't address the real problem, which is the working poor and their ability to pay for quality, affordable health insurance. So I'm a big advocate of coming up with some solutions to try to fix that whole program.
Okay, let me take a moment there, because I want to be clear. So you would support a repeal and replacement of Obamacare?
No, I wouldn't. I would not support repealing it. I would support fixing it. I don't think that you need to repeal the entire piece of legislation. I think that there needs to be pieces of it fixed. I think that there's things that need to be taken out, and I think there's things that need to be put in, such as things that need to be taken out are the fee for not having insurance. And again, it needs to be fixed in the sense where government really takes a proactive approach and looks at the services that are being provided and the cost associated with those services, and finding a way to work with the insurance companies to make it more affordable and provide better quality health insurance. But like I said, I believe charging people a fee for not having health insurance, that undermines democracy. I don't think that that's a true way to instill, creating a more of a universal type healthcare program.
Okay, let me ask you this then, which is related. There's a lot of talk in the presidential race amongst Democrats, and it's growing a question about single payer. Do you support single payer?
I'm a bigger advocate for single payer, yes.
Okay.
I just feel like in this country, health insurance should not be a privilege. It should, it should just be a standard. I mean, people are very, very concerned with the word social. They're very, very concerned when it comes to when you socialize anything. But I always have to remind people that Social Security is a socialized form of retirement for people. So there are a few things in this country, being such an industrialized nation that we are, that we need to find opportunities to make things make sense. And I think that people should look at more of a socialized form of medicine, because we don't turn people away in this country. In fact, any doctor that takes the oath to be a doctor does it as such that they will not refuse somebody's service. But I can tell you, so I went through a situation. My father had lung cancer, which essentially ended up taking his life.
I'm sorry.
And thank you. Through that process, I saw a woman go into a doctor's office here in Utica, very ill and very sick, with no hair, with the cover on her head, the bandana or whatever, very feeble, gets to the doctor's office, and the doctor's office says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. So-and-so, we can't treat you today because your insurance company did not pay for your previous bill." And I look at that and I think to myself, this is the United States of America, and people that sick and that ill who are looking there. Nobody wants to go to the doctors. I don't want to go to the doctors. Nobody. It's like a last resort. That it's something that we have to depend on and take care of ourselves in this country. Is things like going to the doctor, and we all try to. I think a lot of people try to take care of themselves, but it does get to a point where it's to the doctor. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, where are we this was back in 2014, and I'm thinking to myself, where are we as a nation in 2014 that a poor woman who's so feeble that it probably took all of her energy to get out of bed gets to the doctor's office and is told that she can't be seen today because her health care provider did not pay for her previous insurance. Now, when I think of a true single-payer program, things like that don't happen. You're not relying heavily on the provider to set the standard of care or to provide the financials to a doctor's office, whereas with a single payer program, it's more or less there's a standard, everybody follows the standard, and people actually are able to be treated for their ailments without discrimination against their insurance policy or their financial footing in life. No. And that's one of the biggest reasons for it.
No, I understand your concept. Others would counter that would bring us into a situation where everyone's getting the same kind of treatment like VA veterans. But I don't want. We can go on for a long time on this one issue.
What I was going to say with that is I believe still we are a capitalistic society. We are a democracy. I believe that there still should be an ability to buy supplemental insurance, just like they do in Canada, where now you have the ability to choose certain specialists and things like that, so that there is a standard of care similar to that of what we already have for Medicaid, but that there additionally would still be the opportunity to buy your supplemental stuff if you wanted to see somebody. So meaning that doctor wouldn't particularly be a general practitioner or have to specialize in just general practice, but could be a specialist for things like, obviously when we talk about people getting in automobile accidents and stuff, there's reconstructive surgery, and there should be a standard for that. And if you want to go above and beyond and have, special type of surgeries done, that you could buy supplemental insurance, to cover any of that. And I think look at Canada's Healthcare Act is from 1984, and we're still in this country not on, somewhat of an equal footing with them. And, again, we can go on and on all day why that is. I mean, look at the cost of prescription drugs in this country. It's crazy.
There's a lot we could say about the healthcare. It's not a small subject. But and there's a lot of pros and cons on both sides. But
on both sides, correct, exactly.
Let me go forward to address a couple of different other things. Let me ask you similarly, and I've asked this of all the candidates so far, so I want to ask you as well, make sure everyone's answering the same question here, on the Omnibus Bill that just passed.
I'm sorry, say it again?
The Omnibus Bill? Omnibus Funding Bill?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, so that just passed, and would you have voted for that?
Well, you know what? I don't really know enough about the bill. I'd have to really sit down and delve into it. That's one of the luxuries of, I guess, not being elected to it yet. So it'd be something that I really have to look into. Can you give me a little bit more information about that bill?
Sure. The Omnibus spending bill was the stopgap measure to fund the entire government. Within that bill, there was also stipulations to fund Planned Parenthood, excuse me, as well as another controversial provision in there, which was about expanding the H-2B visas, which would have quadrupled them, which would be approximately just under 300,000 foreign visas, foreign workers getting visas in the United States. These are the two main issues I've asked people about, and I would ask you, how do you feel about funding Planned Parenthood and the H-2B visas?
So I think it's tough because when you talk about this omnibus bill, it's always a single type bill that's made for a single vote with a lot of stuff jammed into it. And when you think about what that means for democracy, I'm always weary of these bills where they stuff things in just to get things done. I will say that I have always been an avid supporter of Planned Parenthood because I believe that they provide a lot of services to young women who otherwise may not feel comfortable going to their doctors or whatever because of the parental issue, and if they're pregnant or need contraceptive or whatever. So I've always been a supporter of that. So moving forward, I would have obviously looked for some stringent guidelines as far as ensuring that the situation they talked about with them selling the baby parts or whatever they were doing, that it really needed to be investigated and either be vindicated or be proven that it was a valid situation. And then moving forward, making sure that didn't happen again. I probably would have supported this bill if and I don't know every single part of the bill, I'd have to look at it, if there was government transparency there that made sense. Like I said,
well, that's another question.
Vote on it, but I'd actually have to. See, that was the thing. Like I said before, when we had this Indian Nation agreement, we had 5 days to look over a 481-page bill. To be honest with you, going to Congress, unless I had prior information about every bill, I would vote against every bill that was shoved down my throat before I had adequate answers, to several questions before the process is vetted. I've always told my constituency that I will never vote for a rushed bill, not an omnibus bill or anything of that nature.
Then that means that in reference to the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which had 24 hours before it was passed, you would have voted no because you didn't get a chance to read it.
That probably be a true statement.
Okay, just one.
But I want it to be worded that way. If anybody, that again, my biggest stance is government transparency, and we need to be able to look through the bill. Now the question is, did the media skew that and say that they only really had 24 hours report? Now,
no,
I listened to Mike Arcuri, and he said that he did sit down with his team of people. They did go through the bill. They did highlight things. They sticky noted everything. They were able to then go back and have a meeting and talk about these things. So I guess it all comes down to the United Indian Nation thing was a completely different situation because we got it on like a Wednesday. We went to Albany on a Monday or Tuesday. We got the information on a Wednesday, and it was a holiday weekend for Memorial Day. So Memorial Day was that Monday, and we were expected to vote on Tuesday.
Well,
just by face value, I would have voted against something like that if I didn't have the opportunity to have any questions answered. So,
well, going by the statements, public statements by Representative Clyburn and then Speaker Nancy Pelosi, no, you wouldn't have had that time because they had 24 hours, 48 hours,
right.
24 to 48. Well,
and I don't understand why they do that in any form of government. That's a sad, sad state of affairs for people to, to be pressured to vote for something that they don't have the information on. And that's going to be a big part of my campaign, and I think that's a big issue out there. I think even, somebody like Senator Sanders would agree that, the process has to be well vetted, and people need to be well informed before making a vote for their constituency. And look at Mike Arcuri. He voted against it after, because he saw a lot of the issues that were prevalent in the bill. So I'm assuming the only reason he voted for it was because he was pressured to do so by the powers that be. But unlike some people, I don't fold under pressure, and I won't be pressured to vote for a bill because the people in my district are the ones that elected me, not the DNC, not the President of the United States, not any other organization. The people that elected me to office are the people of my district.